great.
Late word tonight on the medical condition of the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, John Roberts. Also, the latest drug under scrutiny for possible heart dangers. What action will the feds take? President Bush and British Prime Minister Gordon Brown meeting for the first time. Will the new leader keep British troops in Iraq? And an astonishing display of brotherly love that helped a young man save an entire family.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
We have a few departures to take note of here tonight. They include the death of one of the great film directors of the past half-century, Ingmar Bergman. Bergman was known for bringing cinematic artistry to gloomy subjects like madness and death. One of his most famous films, The Seventh Seal, told the story of the Black Plague through the journey of a medieval knight. Ingmar Bergman died today at his home in Sweden. He was 89 years old. And so many California sports fans in particular are tonight mourning word of the death of Hall of Fame football coach Bill Walsh. The beloved Walsh designed the famed West Coast offense. He was with Stanford for 2 seasons in the late 70s and then moved on to the San Francisco 49ers, where he wisely hitched his star to a great young quarterback named Joe Montana. Together, the two of them went all the way to 3 Super Bowl championships. Bill Walsh was 75. We mentioned this a moment earlier. We are mourning a giant of this business as well tonight. Tom Snyder was an overpowering, iconic presence on American television for decades. Most Americans remember seeing Tom Snyder through a haze of cigarette smoke.
As promised, here is John Lennon.
On the late-night show called Tomorrow, he interviewed the biggest names of the day.
That's what the DA gave you for reality.
Did you design your own outfits?
I think this outfit is self-explanatory.
His style was performance art. His laugh quickly became his signature. That was all Saturday Night Live needed to hear. Dan Aykroyd's spot-on Snyder soon became a part of the national lexicon.
Well, that's that. This is Bono, and this man calls himself The Edge. All right.
Tom Snyder was born and built for broadcasting. He started in radio in Milwaukee back in the 60s.
I don't know why that's funny, but it's like forklift. It's funny.
And later, as a local television news anchor, he broke the old mold.
New York. You know, that sounds pretty good, Gil. Good morning, everyone. It's now Tomorrow here on NBC.
NBC put him on at night, where the hours and the audience suited Tom.
Report by Tom Snyder from the NBC News Center in New York.
Good evening.
He also anchored the weekend version of this broadcast. He later jumped to CBS, to ABC Radio, and then our own CNBC before retiring.
And good evening, folks. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom.
Always a towering presence, who always saw a kind of romance in how it all worked.
Folks, settle back, relax, and enjoy the pictures as they fly through the air.
Tom Snyder loved broadcasting. He also loved model trains, of all things, and wrote a book on the subject. He battled leukemia for 2 years. Tom Snyder was 71 years old. We're back with more right after this.
Tributes tonight to talk show host Tom Snyder. The man who was a staple of late-night TV died Sunday at his home near San Francisco. The veteran newsman died of complications from leukemia. He's best known for hosting The Tomorrow Show from 1973 to 1981, and later became known to the next generation of TV viewers as host of The Late Late Show with Tom Snyder. He was 71 years old. Sources tell ET that funeral plans are pending and a memorial service is expected to take place in the next few months.
Just to get serious for a second, you know, television lost a great one this past weekend. Tom Snyder, who was host of the pioneering Tomorrow Show, as well as The Late Late Show on CBS, died yesterday at his home in Northern California. Tom was a good friend of ours, as well as just a terrific broadcaster. The classic guy, was an anchorman all across the country, worked in Philadelphia, worked almost every station, knew more about television than almost anybody ever met. He was also a bit of a rebel. He was one of those guys that liked to tweak authority figures, especially NBC executives. He always made me laugh. And then for me, he was also an old car guy, and we would often talk on the phone about old cars, but my reason for missing Tom is somewhat selfish, in that he was probably the best audience a comedian could ever have. You know, whenever you did Tom's show, it was just you and him. just two people, but he would laugh so hard at everything you said. It made you think there were like 500 people in the room. So I thought I'd like to say goodbye to Tom tonight in the way I remember him best, just having a good laugh. Now, here's Tom Snyder and I. This is from an old show of his. This was taped about 16 years ago, back when NBC was trying to get rid of me, remember? Yeah. It's amazing how times have changed. But anyway, it wasn't quite sure. He knew the story. He was trying to get rid of me, so he was tweaking me. And I just remember Tom, just that big laugh and that big grin. Here's Tom. Here's Tom laughing.
And there's a wonderful scene where you are in a little room somewhere. Right. And you've got some headsets on, and you're listening to
No headsets.
Oh, well, you're listening to a conference call on the telephone, yes, where various NBC executives are speculating as to whether you or another person will host the Tonight Show.
That would be Dave.
Yeah,
the gaping holes in the story. This is like doing the TV Guide crossword puzzle. Gee, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Johnny Carson blank show. Yes, all of it.
So now you're listening to all these NBC executives, and I don't want to give their names.
No.
Although, what are they going to do? Fire us?
That's right.
Yeah.
God bless you, Tom Snyder. Be right back.
You know, our good friend, this was very sad to hear, our good friend Tom Snyder passed away yesterday, 71 years old.
Ah, too young.
Way, way too young. And you all remember Tom, he, I guess, came to national attention first on the Tomorrow Show, which followed Johnny Carson's Tonight Show on NBC. What a tremendous program this was, because in those days, you didn't have 1,000 television channels. You had maybe 4, maybe 5 if you were lucky. Yeah. And this TV would not be on all night. It would sign off. And then here suddenly, in the middle of the night, was Tom Snyder's program, and gosh, was that entertaining. Do you remember how great that show was?
Of course, yeah.
And here's what the nice thing about Tom was. It didn't make any difference who was on the program. It was all about Tom, because he could beat, it really was. You were fascinated by Tom, and when he was great, he was compelling, and even when he was being a goofball, he was compelling. And I remember one night we were watching a show, and somebody had sent Tom a cane made out of part of a bull. And I think we all know what that is. You know, you say, hey, look at this, I had it made out of a, oh, fine, that's exactly what I want. You know what I mean? They get a bull's thing, and they make it into a cane, and then you mail it off to your uncle on his birthday or something, and it's just, So, anyway, somebody had mailed one of these into Tom, and he's got it there on the show, and now he's interviewing somebody, and it didn't make any difference who he was interviewing. It never really did. And you hear some kind of commotion off stage. You hear something being pushed around, you hear voices, and you see Tom's eyes kind of dart over like that, and he's shooting up a dirty look. And then he goes on, and he goes on. This happens 3 times, and finally, Tom picks up the cane, and he says, shut up! And he just wings the cane over there. Pretty entertaining. He was the best. And then that was the Tomorrow Show, and then he did a show right after us called The Late Late Show from 1995 to 1998. And this guy really was what television was all about. Whatever was going on, Tom was the entertainment. So I'm very sorry that our old friend passed away on Sunday. Tom Snyder, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at a picture of him right there. There's Tom. There's Tom. Look at it. Knock it off, or I'll throw my bull cane at you.
Those were the days when they smoked.
That's right.
Smoked on
Smoke, and we're proud of it.
Everybody had a butt going.
That's right. That's what really made television great in those days.